Hey you guys, it's Peter, and I'm back! Of course I'm back, I'm not going anywhere! Boost! Peekaboo, I see you because I'm YouTube famous now! Available in 2021, the album, Dad AF, Rock on Gold Dust, Boost, Woman! I was just looking at my fan and there was like so many little things falling off. Good thing I have some new fans on the way. Before I get into this video today, I want to give a very, very special shout out to Scentbird and thank them for sponsoring this video. Thank you, Scentbird, for sponsoring this video. I have worked with Scentbird, I don't know, for like 3 or 4 years now. Y'all know I love Scentbird. I do a sponsorship every couple months. I have to show you something that's so cute. So my husband, he like built this table upstairs. Well, he didn't build it. He put it together, you know. But he put this table together right outside of our bedroom, and it has like our sunglasses and stuff on it. And then he put this little container there that has all of our Scentbirds in it that we have currently. And then I always have one like in my fanny pack, and he has one in his backpack. And then when we're going on a trip or we are going just, you know, around for the day and you want to smell good, you just take one of these, whichever one you want. And yeah, and then you have little cologne with you all day long. And let me show you how this works. So here's the containers that they come in. Let me show you that. Actually, here's a green one so you guys can see it better. And it, you just twist it and it goes up like that, and then you spray it. See? And then if you look, this is the vial that you get. It's so vile. This is the little vial. Oh, that smells so good. Of cologne. This one is Burberry London. And so this is the little cologne that you, the vial that comes inside of it. And that's how you can just close it, open it, close it. So anyway, spam risk calling me right now. All right, in the middle of this. Every month is $15.95 for 1 cent, but you get your first month for $11.96. Okay, and let me make sure that I have all of this correctly. Hold on a second. But with my code Peter Monn, you get 30% off at Scentbird. So you can go use my code Peter Monn and get 30% off. This month, the ones that I tried are Clinique Happy, Burberry London for men, because that's our one of our favorites, Vintage by John Varvatos, and Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme, the Dolce & Gabbana for men, and then also F Mondays by Confessions of a Rebel. And these are the little bags that they come in. Aren't they so cute? And then you get these little cards that come with them. See, here I got Clinique Happy, and then Burberry London for men, and then they come in these little bags, okay? And you take your little container out, and they are travel friendly on airports, on planes and all that. And then you open it like that, and then you spray it. And let's see if I know what the smell is. I don't know if I know this one maybe or not before. Oh, this is the Dolce & Gabbana. No, I don't know that one's a newer one. So anyway, okay. So there are all the ones that you can try over there, and yeah. And they have women's fragrances, they have men's fragrances. So it's a cool little subscription thing. I love subscription anything. So go check that out. We'll put this over there, and I'll put those in there tonight. And then my husband will come home and he'll be like, oh my God, we have new Scentbirds. And I will say, of course, sweetie. Oh, it smells so good in here now. All right, now, before we get into today's video, we're gonna be talking about Gabbie Hanna, and we're gonna be talking about Alex James' video that he did in response to Gabbie Hanna. I'm gonna use this. Somebody sent me this Petal Pout lip mask. I don't know if it's like a lip gloss or not, but we're gonna try it out here real quick and see what I think. I haven't used it yet, so let's open the, is it just like a mask or what is it? It's not a lip gloss. Okay, you take that off. Ooh, it is kind of like a, oh look at that, you like, it has these little holes in the end of it. Why isn't it working? Oh, there it goes, okay. Is it working? I'm gonna have to figure this out later. Anyway, all right. Now I have 18 points on this video that I just made, and I'm gonna get right into this. We won't do some long intro today with birthday shout-outs and all that, but I will tell you, are you excited? My friend Melissa and I, we are starting a horror movie podcast coming very, very soon, and tomorrow night, we may do a special live stream in honor of it. because it's Friday the 13th tomorrow. All right, let's get into today's video. So Alex James came out and he made this video. If you guys don't know who Alex James is, he is a YouTuber that got famous on Vine, much like Gabbie Hanna, and then he came over to YouTube. He was the one that did the sunglass video with the bug thing back in the day. Y'all remember that? Oh my God, it was so funny. Okay, he has not made a video in 6 months. So this is his return to YouTube after his 6 months hiatus, okay? And this is not his first video that he's made about Gabbie Hanna before. Previously, she had said something to the effect on a podcast that Alex James was not a good person, and so he came out in a video and he addressed that and confronted Gabbie Hanna in that, of which he talks about in this video today, or this video was from like 2 days ago, I think. So anyway, I have now watched this video twice. I watched it once all the way through, and then I watched it a second time and took notes as I was typed up notes. Because I'm a busy secretary, see? I took up notes. Gabbie Hanna, like this. That's how I was while I was reading these points. I don't even know if I need my glasses for this one. Okay, because the print is not that small. So, the first thing I wanted to talk about was Gabbie Hanna posted on her Instagram story last night. I thought this was real cute. Hold on, aren't you glad I have my notes? I would have completely forgotten this. She posted this on her Instagram story last night. I thought this was real cute. It's a little meme, and it says, "I'm at the age where I crave peace more than attention." Okay, girl. Okay, Gabbie. Gabbie craves peace more than attention. What's the purpose of this whole series then? Okay, well, we're going to get into that because Alex James has some theories on what her purpose is for this series. So he goes right in and he makes this video, and it is called Gabbie Jeanette Hanna, You Tried It, Part 1 of ... At the end of the video, he says, all parts of my little docu-series coming soon, and I'm not on no timeline, turn your notifications on. And what he says at the end of the video is that he's going to address these 3 points, of which he feels like Gabbie Hanna is why she made this series, the 3 points that he got from it. And the 3 points are why Jesse isn't friends with her anymore, but is friends with Alex James. Why Jesse accepted Alex James' apology, but wouldn't accept Gabbie's apology. And one of the comments that I have seen flying around quite a bit when this conversation comes up that I think is interesting is that I've seen a lot of people say, like, it's totally unfair that Jesse, accepted Alex James' apology for this, and she didn't accept Gabbie Hanna's apology for this. Okay, I don't know what kind of world y'all live in. Okay, but let's just talk about reality here for a second. Other than the fact that Gabbie Hanna continues to drag this woman's tragedy, I'm not talking about the past, facts, and all that kind of stuff. She continues to this day, okay? To this day, in August, continues to drag this tragedy forward, continues to talk about it, continues to put things up on her Twitter, even up till just late last week. She was putting things about Jesse up on Twitter, talking about her stories didn't match up and all this kind of stuff, okay? She continues to do that. Past all of that, isn't it Jessie Smiles' right to forgive who she wants to forgive? She could say, I have absolutely no excuse in the entire world why I won't accept Gabbie's, but I'll accept Alex James' apology. And that is her business. I don't know what kind of world you live in, okay? And I'm not saying that that's fair. I'm just saying that's reality, okay? I mean, Jessie Smiles can accept whoever's apology she wants to. And I've seen quite a few of you out there say that. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, if Jessie wants to, you don't know what conversations have occurred between Alex and Jesse. It's not like Alex and Jesse are taking the conversations that they've had and they're putting them on public display for Gabbie Hanna to see every bit and detail of everything. Who knows? Who knows? I've had very, very private, personal conversations with people that I have had issues with in the past that I don't feel like belong anywhere on the internet or for my other friends to know about or whatever. That's between me and that other person, I don't know. This whole idea that, like, Gabbie Hanna deserves this or whatever. How about apologize to Jessie Smiles, Gabbie? Do we forget that? Anyway. So he goes on to say that the 3 things that he took from the series that Gabbie Hanna needs to know, okay, is why Jesse isn't friends with her but is friends with Alex, why no one stands up for her in the industry, and why doesn't anyone want to work with her in the industry anymore? Okay, those are the 3 things that he addresses, and then we'll get back to that in just a second. he says at the beginning of the video, well, I will tell you that halfway through the video, he goes in this whole thing and he says, I won't name what it is, but I'm going to talk about 18 points about it. And basically, he gives 18 symptoms of a diagnosis, of which I'm not going to talk about on here as well. But it's interesting how he reads each one, and then he kind of addresses each one. If you haven't seen Alex James' video about Gabbie Hanna, and you're kind of undecided about this, or you're interested in this whatsoever, you definitely need to go see Alex's video. It's very well put out. He's very heated, you can tell. And that's actually one thing that I kind of like about the video is, you know, yes, I love Joey Graceffa's video where he was kind of like sitting there and whatever, but even Joey seemed heated for Joey, you know? And in this video, you can tell it. Alex James has had it with Gabbie Hanna. He has absolutely had it. And he says in there something to the effect of that people always say, why don't you handle these things offline? Like, all of this should be handled offline. He's like, oh, no. He was like, Gabbie Hanna brought this to the internet. We're going to address this on the internet, okay? Gabbie Hanna didn't want to address this behind the scenes, so we're going to address this on the internet. He also talks in there about this is why you can't address things behind the scenes, because this is what Gabbie Hanna does. She manipulates the truth, she lies, she changes her stories, she says she doesn't remember things, on and on and on. And all that happens behind the scenes. But this is what's interesting to me about Gabbie Hanna, okay? Is that Gabbie Hanna attempts to have these offline conversations, these behind the scenes DMs. I mean, you don't try to have those kind of conversations with people and then not have 9 million text messages, direct messages, phone conversations recorded. I just can't even imagine living in a world. I mean, I really can't. You know, I feel very blessed that I have about 3 friends that I call very close friends, okay? And I cannot ever imagine, and then maybe 10 acquaintances, okay? I cannot imagine in any of those people and my relationships with them keeping receipts on them, you know, keeping DMs, keeping text messages, all that kind of stuff, or even knowing where, like, if it was still like in my phone, to go back and be like, I think it was in September that such and such person said this to me, to throw it out, to prove what? You know, like, I don't know. Like, for me, any person that did that to me, I'd be like, you're right. I'm moving on. And in my head, I would say, don't ever have anything to do with that person again, okay? That person is A, very dangerous, and that person is somebody that you can't trust. Those would be the things I would say. And, you know, you hear enough of that from other people. I mean, if you were sitting around and you know that these YouTubers are people that all talk to each other, right? They all go to the same parties. Well, they did back in the day, all the Viner people, YouTubers, right? If one person said that, you know, somebody else said, well, Gabbie showed me direct messages or text messages that you had sent her, and then that person says to somebody else, did you know that Gabbie Hanna shows other people the text messages? Of which, there was a time in the drama community where to show somebody's DM or text messages was like, no, very taboo. Like, you never did that, okay? I don't know where we're like in this world now where just to show everything is completely okay. Like, I don't know what that's about, where it's just like, hey, I'm going to prove all this stuff to you based on these text messages and these DMs. I think it really speaks to the character of Gabbie Hanna, not to the character of the other person, right? And then what it does is it forces them in a corner where they're like, well, I have to come out with these DMs and stuff now. I have to come out with this because if I don't, then all these people are going to think about all this. You have to remember, all of these people, their careers completely lie in the hands of public opinion. So Gabbie Hanna has forced them into this court, and now they have to participate. They have to get their defense together, right? And that's why we're starting to see more and more people speak out against Gabbie Hanna. Because if everybody's like, don't pay Gabbie any attention, don't say anything to Gabbie Hanna. Well, there's a lot of people out there that are believing what Gabbie Hanna has to say. And if Alex James just sits over there and doesn't, I was going to say retaliate, but doesn't say anything back to Gabbie Hanna, then people are like, oh, so all these things are true about Alex James. He did physically harm her. He did do all these kinds of things about her, right? And then they're like left to believe that to be the truth because Alex never came out and said anything. And and this is where I say often in my videos, would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? And there comes a point where you don't defend yourself to everything. This is a situation where I think that you do. Gabbie Hanna is literally just like this and coming for all these people at this point, you know? And then she said, I saw her say this thing the other day. It was in a live stream. I saw a clip of it where she was talking about the series is not being taken the way that I wanted the series to be taken. Girl, how did you want it to be taken? It's basically just a big call-out session is all it is. You just calling out all these people, you know? And the other thing for me is, why aren't you just putting the series all out? Like, I don't understand this This to me is very manipulative of like feeding this out slowly to make people wonder what's going to be the next thing. And there's a lot of people that have had issues with Gabbie Hanna, okay? So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are like, am I next? You know, is Gabbie Hanna going to say this about me? Whatever, you know? And she's just over there living her good life out in the gym. Like, I'll let you guys know when I release that, okay? Well, that's control and manipulation is what it is. You call it what you want, but to me, that's control and manipulation. And yes, she can put out the series whenever she wants, but why start it 2 months ago and then feed it out slowly over time? And she also said that her intention was always to leave YouTube when all this is done and that she still plans to do that. Oh, she might post something over there every once in a while is what she said. I was like, so are you leaving YouTube or are you not leaving YouTube? Okay, you said in this thing, I think it was a live stream she was in. I'm like, are you leaving YouTube? Because you just said that is still my plan, but I will post things over here once in a while. Well, that's not leaving YouTube, right? Can't keep your story straight, again. So anyway, Alex goes on and he says that he talks about how everyone is seeing her as she truly is now. 90% of the people Gabbie has worked with or come in contact with have to deal with this kind of behavior from Gabbie. And this is why people don't want to work with her, is what Alex James is saying. He said that this series is not for her to heal. This was another desperate attempt for her to clear her name. And I think it's true. And it's like, when is it over? Like, that's my question is, when do you feel like I put out everything that there is to say? How people receive it, what people do with it is up to them. Okay, now, this is where the poetry is, I think, important. When we talk about these poetry books, okay, as somebody that has written a book and published a book and put it out there, you know, that your artwork, whatever you do, is kind of like your baby. Once you are done with it and you've raised it and you put it out there in the world at 18, 19, 20, right? Like, you've done the best that you can do, and now it's kind of like, let's see what happens, right? And I think that's why so many parents that are friends of mine, you know, at 18 or 19 are like, I hope I did a good enough job. I'm sending them off to college. I hope they have everything that they need, you know? And here it is that Gabbie Hanna put these poetry books out in the world, but she doesn't like the reception. And anytime she doesn't get the reception that she wants from people, anytime people are critical of the writing, anytime people say that it's amateurish or whatever, which it is, because I've read enough of it to know, okay, that she has a huge issue with this. And it's like, you can't just put something out there. You can't just put a song out there. You can't just put this, whatever. You have to be in control constantly of everything that's going on. Not just the narrative, as we say in the drama community, but everything. You have to be in control of the music that's going out there, how it's going to be received. If people don't like it, then you come for those people that don't like it. Then you have to backtrack. Then you have to defend why you did it. Then you have to say this. It's constant. I don't know how she constantly just even functions, you know. And then she throws up on her Instagram story last night, she's in the gym working out. And he does say this at one point. I thought this was interesting. He talks about her saying that it's so easy to go viral. And he says something to the effect of, yeah, it's so easy to get your fans to worry about you. And he says something about the artwork that she puts out, you know, indicating that, like, her thoughts are not maybe in a healthy place. I'm not going to say the word. And, you know, it's interesting to me in watching that. It's like, if you cared so much about your fans that relate to your music, fans that relate to your artwork, okay? Many of your fans, and this is where I have a huge issue with it, and as a person in recovery that talks a lot about addiction, you know, I really believe in lifting people up and giving people hope and saying, hey, you know what? You can do this. You can do this. But not just to co-sign that and get into videos and Instagram stories and blah, 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 and just throw that out there, you know, as like props in your video or something. I don't know. It's like, I think to some degree, this is where we talk about, you know, influencers, YouTubers, not having a responsibility to their audience. And I think that's crap. I just do. I think that that's crap. I think to some degree we do have, you know, a responsibility to our audience. And, you know, I think that to put all that stuff, and he says that in the video. He says, you know, you get people, you know, to worry about you through all this, and he talks about her crossing her eyes and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, it's like, okay, so you get people to worry about you, then you put out the next thing, but then you are in a gym working out when the last thing you did was 3 live streams 3 nights in a row and put out this song that's you in a bathtub. Nobody knows what to think, Gabbie. Like, should they be worried about you or should they not, you know? And I think that's what she's apparently fine because somebody did a wellness check on her. I mean, I'm wondering who knows Gabbie Hanna enough to do that to where if that, you know, they came over there and then said that everything was okay. You know, it makes you wonder. So anyway, he talks about the Buzzfeed article, and he says she does this Buzzfeed article, and then she wonders why people are still talking about her. And he goes in there and talks about, I thought this was interesting. He said, this Buzzfeed article is a profile. Your management team reached out to Buzzfeed to do a profile to get attention for you, right? Which is something that sounds true within, you know, the YouTube world and management companies and things like that. These are things that they do, right? And I'm like, okay, so then you could have had complete control, A, whether that interview ever went out on BuzzFeed, and B, what you talked about. And she did decide to talk about Jessie Smiles and Trisha Paytas in that, you know, so that's interesting to me. He then goes on, that was where he talked about the viral part, then he goes on to say, for the people that say that this should be happening offline, that Gabbie brought this to the internet. He goes on to talk about the accusation about how she physically harmed him, and he goes in about how this just popped up in the video. Now, if you go back and you watch that video, he shows a clip in his video, but what it is she just pops it up and says physically in it, right? And he's like, you're going to do that and not talk about it? Like, you're going to throw that out there? And then she says in there something about why she's been forced to have to, like, sue certain people. And he said, I have never been contacted by an attorney, and if I had, my attorney would laugh in your face. And he said, but I can sue you for these things that you are doing, and he says for defamation of character. Which, you know, I think there's going to become a point where a lot of these people are just going to be like, I've had it. Like, no, I'm not going to deal with this in a YouTube video anymore. I'm not going to deal with this online. This is real stuff. This is a career I've worked very, very hard for. I'm not going to allow her to come out and just throw something up in a pop-up word and get everybody to think things about me and whatever, you know? And she hasn't talked about it since. She hasn't addressed it since. She hasn't talked about it. So we don't know, you know? We don't know what her side of that story is, or if she's going to talk about it. Maybe that's the next video. Who knows? And then he said, he addresses the part where she said that he told her to get a nose job in lipo, and he talks about how he was sitting there, and, you know, it was exactly what I thought it was. I mean, I said in my video, because he had already addressed it in a previous video, but, you know, Gabbie called him out for that, and I'm like, come on now, Gabbie, like, you're not around YouTube too long before you know there are contrived relationships. There are people that are dating on YouTube that aren't even dating, okay? I'm sorry to tell you that a lot of what you watch is fake, and I'm just here to tell you, okay? There are people that are friends with each other that they're not really friends with each other, you know? And it is all just business and all that kind of stuff. I didn't really get that at first when I got on YouTube, okay? That all this collabing and whatever, I thought it was, they're all friends and they're hanging out, and isn't it a fun thing to do? That's why I always say I don't want to pull back the veil on Oz and show you guys all of that, because when I used to watch YouTube, I used to think, oh, it's a bunch of people that love hanging out with each other. No, it's all a business. This is all just a business, right? And people contrive and fake stories all the time. So for her to call Alex James out about that and not the other 30 YouTubers that she knows about stories that they've made up to benefit their YouTube channels, even herself, I thought that was interesting, you know? And then he goes in there and talks about how he was sitting there recovering from lipo and a nose job, and she came over and asked him every question in the book about what doctor did you go to, how long were you this, that, whatever, and he was like, if you want it, just go do it, but go to the right doctor. He was like, who am I to call somebody out for having to have that stuff when I'm sitting there recuperating from that, right? And that was interesting. He talks about the friend groups that she has gone through, and that she hasn't talked to any of them anymore. And then she plugs into people she has used them for as much as she can get. This is interesting to me because he goes in there and he talks about how all of a sudden when she was done with them, that all of a sudden she started collabing. And she talks about the Jenna Marbles thing and how Jessie didn't like that or whatever. But she did start collabing with Shane Dawson and all these other people at that time too. That's how I found Gabbie Hanna, was that she was in a Shane Dawson video talking about me. So, and he was like, do you know who he is? And she was like, oh yeah, sure. That's how I found who Gabbie Hanna was back then. I think, yes, that was before I talked to her. It was most definitely before I talked to her. So she was like collabing with all of these people, you know? So then it goes on and go over there and watch that video. That's an interesting video. Anyway, Then he says that when people show proof to her addressing certain issues that she has brought up, like she'll bring up stuff, this big bomb, and she just puts it out there in the world, right? Like this is where I talk about Gabbie Hanna coming to the birthday party that's not hers and she destroys everything because she can't handle that it's not about hers. And then it's like if the mom that looks at her and goes, but Gabbie, this isn't your birthday. And then she just walks out because she can't handle the truth. That's what she does in all this stuff. When people bring up stuff, have you heard her talk or address anything to do with the escape the night situation since she dropped that bomb and Joey and Daniel came out and other people that were on the cast? I mean, half the cast, most of the cast came out and talked against her and said that everything that Daniel and Joey said was true. Haven't heard her talk about escape the night since then, have we? Has she addressed all those things about not signing her contract, not putting in a medical waiver, you know, that Daniel went and got her special food, about the costume fitting that she didn't show up for? Have we heard her address any of those things? Or does she just leave that out there to be true? Because that's for me, like, if you're going to put that out there, then come back and say, hey, like, this is what's happened, like, you know, whatever. But she ain't going to do that because then she'd have to admit that she was a liar. And she's not going to do that. So what she does is when people bring things up, she never talks about them again. Then he talks about the situation. He goes into the 18 points, this different situation. At some point, he goes in and he talks about Tana Mongeau and how in her podcast, which I did cover this in my video, a previous video, that Tana Mongeau said that Gabbie Hanna, she had heard through some publication that Gabbie Hanna was trying to sell them a story about somebody trying to hit on her when she was underage. And he was like, really? That's where you're going now? I mean, like, to me, the fact that Gabbie Hanna hasn't come out and addressed that is a huge deal. These are things that by other people in the YouTube world, we would demand an answer from, okay? You know, but here it is that Gabbie Hanna has put so much out there at this point that nobody's confronting her about it, you know? It's like, okay, we've heard Gabbie Hanna's side. You know, put her in a chair and ask her these questions. What happened with Escape the Night? Why didn't she sign your contract? Why did you just walk off? Why didn't you show up for these pictures? Why weren't you there for your costume fitting? Why didn't you put in your medical issues before when it was supposed to be there, not the day of which Joey has video proof that she said she was filling it out at that moment. She didn't have it done, okay? What about the stuff with Alex James? What about all this kind of stuff? You know, why don't you sit down and answer the questions that are going back? Not just about Jessie Smiles. Everybody wants to make this about Jessie Smiles, okay? There's so much more that is going on with this now. And I think that one of the reasons why Gabbie continues to target the whole Jessie situation with this is because that is somewhere with all of the DMs and the text messages and whatever, she can confuse people a lot in talking about it because they're like, when you watch it, it's like, what, who? I mean, there's so much, right? That she does that instead of actually coming back and addressing this. Hey, is your 12th part of the series, Gabbie, going to be all the lies that people have confronted you about in the past 11 episodes that you put out? Because I think that would be interesting. So anyway, then he talks about the Tana thing. What about the Tana thing? You gonna address that? Okay. Then he goes on and talks about the 3 things he's learned from the series. Then he says, and this was one of the symptoms that he talked about, like the people recruit people against you. And he said that she recruited people against him and that he got like hate comments for a month straight after he made a video confronting her when she was in the podcast and said that Alex James is not a good person. And then she came out and retracted the statement and said she should never have said it. So anyway, and then he ended the video and said the rest of the docuseries is coming soon. I'm interested to hear the rest of the docuseries. I'm ready, you know, to hear other people's sides of the story as well. And I just don't understand what her need is to continue to do this. Like, I just really, like, every time more and more comes out, I'm like, Gabbie, what is your need to continue to do this? Like, I don't know. And I hope that the people around her are like, Gabbie, just for 1 second, just for 1/10, 1/100th of a second, step in somebody else's shoes and look at it from a different perspective, you know? Maybe you're not right in everything. Maybe you're not. And maybe you needing to tell your side of the story is not the end result that you want. Maybe it's not the peace that you're wanting. Because to me, when she throws up a picture like this, it's attention she's craving, not peace. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.